So as promised, there's the oil cooler. You can see that it's obviously puking all over the place. And then you can see it's just making a mess. Nobody likes that. So here we are revisiting this. So see how can you just barely see that oil cooler right there? It's just like right there. Right, well I can't see it from the bottom very good either. And it's got a 24mm bolt head right there. And I don't have anything like in quarter drive super small. So it appears that what I'm going to be doing is pulling out the fan shroud and getting some stuff out of the way here so I can get after this. Alright, well I didn't get a ton of room pulling the fans out, but it was enough to get the wrench in there. It is like literally just barely. You can get it in there and you see how much, just barely out there. One of the many things that was hindering me getting this fixed without tearing this way down was these hoses are hooked to a clamp right here. So it was only giving me a little bit of room to get this out of the way. This air conditioning line's totally in the way. So obviously with the header out of the way, you got a hell of a lot more room to work in here. If you got a high miles car, I guess I recommend you pull the header out because it really isn't that hard to get out, and it was easier than swearing and flowing with this for 30 minutes. There is the cooler, and you can see it's keyed. It basically will only go back on there one way, and you can see the O-ring up here. It's probably all crusty, so I'm gonna dig that out of there and then get the new one in there and get this back together. And I saved you all of my swearing. This O-ring is so shitty in there that it's just super duper crusty. I literally am gonna have to like chisel that out of there. And it was buried behind the header, and it started dumping stuff into the oil fill there. So I really didn't have any other choice. I can't get anything on there in there. So what should have been a 1-bolt 20-minute job is turning into a 78-bolt 3-hour job. Dude. Here's the alleged part number. There's a new rubber installed. Like we said before, you can barely see the cooler right there, and you can see where those water lines run out right here. So there's really no way to get at the line clamp, you know, without the manifold in. So the manifold comes out, you just pull off the heat shield, but these, I think there's another bolt underneath the oxygen sensor right there. So you have these 2 bolts, and then there's one underneath the oxygen sensor. Sensor will have to come out. It just plugs in right here. Sensor plugs in here. That comes out, then there's like 6 or 8 bolts to pull the header out. So pretty straightforward, but still just kind of a pain in the ass. So okay, there is what she looks like, all repaired. I've actually driven on this for a couple weeks now. It looks like everything is good to go now. But again, the manifold isn't super hard to get to. You have your 2 bolts here, the oxygen sensor, and then the bolts up at the top. All right, guys, that about buttons up that oil cooler repair. Like I mentioned, sometimes things just go sideways there. This particular job, if everything went right, theoretically, you could pull those fans out of there. 24mm crowfoot, pull that 1 bolt out, swap the O-ring, and move on with your life. As mentioned, this didn't really go that way. It's just kind of one of those things, just, you know, hard, crusty ass bits. It's part of the repair game, you know what I mean? But anyway, that's pretty much the long and short of it. Not super hardcore or anything, but just kind of an example of when things go the way they're not supposed to go. I mean, it could have went a hell of a lot worse. You could have had broken bolts and shit like that, but it's all good now. So on to the next repairs. Thanks for watching. Peace.
That wraps up another episode of Snale Racing.
Thank you for watching. Please make sure to like and subscribe.